Yo, blessings to you, whoever you are, wherever you are, the way you are. I'm reflecting on a lot of things, as I'm sure you are, at the end of the year. It's an opportunity for us to take account, take responsibility, and do an audit on how we lived our life in this past 365 days of this Gregorian calendar measurement system. Are there other ways to measure the year? Maybe you go off your birthday. Maybe you don't go off the Western Gregorian system, but either way, it's a way to take count, take stock. What's working? What's not working? That's why I journal. I journal to reflect on where I am, where I'm coming from, and where I'm going. And amongst life, it's such a multi-dimensional, intricate labyrinth, and I find it very helpful to journal. Something that comes up amongst journaling is ancestral alchemy. Doing these things with my father, I'm writing this book with him called Gonzo Life, and it's a 500-page coffee table book where it's his whole life story through all of his albums and making merch. And I find it as a mirror. There are those nearby me who I'm reminded my father's name is Ted, and he's living an extraordinary life. The book is called Gonzo Life because it's so extraordinary. It's part of it is, what does it mean to be Gonzo? What does it mean to be super radically fulfilled? I'm really hoping that this is in focus. When I back away, I can't really see it. But it's causing me to take stock. I think it's really helpful for everyone to notice how they're different from their parents and how they're different from their grandparents. And to notice specifically, what are the karmic homework assignments that you're working on that your family, like another great journal prompt in the end of your journal is to reflect on the ancestral alchemy that you're working on. What is the life lesson and the karmic topics that you're working on that no one in your family line has had access to yet because your grandparents dealt with different issues. Your parents dealt with different issues. This is where being a conscious alchemist comes into play, because if you don't become conscious of what you're actually working on in your lifetime, you'll end up not moving it forward, so your kids have to deal with the same shit that you dealt with. Or maybe you're the one that woke up because your parents or your grandparents didn't move things forward as much as they could have. And that's a mirror. Mirrors can be painful and negative, or feel like they're mirroring back to us a shadow of ourself, or mirrors can be positive and they can be inspiring. I look at things that my father is doing and has done. Some are very inspiring to me. They motivate me. They inspire me to be the best that I can be and take it further than him. He became a famous musician, a successful artist. Wow, that's a really cool thing to do. And it causes me to reflect very deeply on my potential. What am I capable of becoming that would be deeply satisfying for myself? Not because of him or because of Kanye or Steve Jobs or Elon or Kid Cudi or Da Vinci. Or what would me be at the highest level? What would me look like at my deepest, most satisfying level? Not about social validation, not about comparison, not about comparing myself to other people or archetypes or lifestyles, but what would be the most soul level satisfying thing that I could do with my life? Journal about that. That's one of the prompts in the end of your journal. What are some other great journal prompts having to deal with ancestral? There's some other journal prompts that deal with ancestral alchemical cleansing and the clearing of the ancestral lineage, the line that you are aging through. Just a couple to think about is, what issues or patterns did your grandparents struggle with that your parents got better at? And what would be the continuation of that with you if you were to move it forward? Then take it to the next step. What patterns did your parents struggle with that you inherited? So what patterns did your parents struggle with that they did not figure out? And you know it because you're dealing with it right now. Reflect on that. Digest that. Put words to it. Put a name on it, because it's such an ethereal ambiguous, hard to define thing. So when we journal about this stuff, it takes it out of the cosmic ether space dust and it puts it into the material, which if you're really writing, it puts it into wood, paper, and pencil and ink. It puts it into blood, sweat, and tears of your alchemical rite of passage. And if you make a ceremony out of your journaling, then you can change your life with journaling, because it can make you conscious of dormant, latent patterns in your subconscious, which are part of your karmic structure of your inherited genealogy. Things that maybe your parents and parents weren't even remotely conscious of, but they were working through it. They're moving through it in their own way. Again, part of the really helpful journal prompts in the end of your journal. In the same way that we can reflect on what patterns are we struggling to navigate that maybe our parents or grandparents' parents that they dealt with that we're navigating, it's also a helpful process to reflect on what gifts did we inherit, the patterns that are positive, the patterns that are healthy, some genealogy, some ancestral lines. Yeah, they have karmic baggage, but they also have karmic beauty. They have karmic benefits. You signed up for this ancestral karmic manifestation of DNA. What did that give you that's positive? There really is no ancestral line that's just negative. You got something positive. It's just the way the karmic structure works. You got something positive and you got something negative. And you're right in the middle of it. Again, part of the helpful journal prompts in the end of your journal. Another way to talk to your ancestors through journaling in a helpful alchemical journaling process to become more spiritually aware, refined, and cognizant of what you are working with on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis is to talk to your ancestors through journaling. Ask them, how do you think I'm doing? Close your eyes, meditate, take a deep breath, fill up with prana and chi and oxygen. Empty out of the identity that you think you are, that you're constantly echoing through your days with, and look at how your ancestors see you. Look at how you are progressing things or stagnating things. Are you moving it forward? Are you moving some things forward? And are maybe you moving other things forward a little bit less? Ask your ancestral line, your maternal line and your paternal line. Your father and your mother's lineages, they meet with you. You are an intersection point of destiny of multiple lineages of people who at one point dreamt of a scenario that's slightly like yours. And so now you are that. You are here. The opportunity to move it forward, to make it better, even a little bit. And even if it feels like you're not moving it forward as much as you could be, which is a mirror, you're probably moving it forward better than someone who has come before you ever could have. Again, a helpful journal prompt in the end of your journal. Another helpful journal prompt in the end of your journal is, what alchemical spiritual frequency are you here to shift? Is it scarcity to abundance, both physically and financially? Is it from shame to worthiness? Is it from low-level survival, barely getting by, to thriving and having more than you need? Maybe it's from hiding to visibility, from sequestering your truth to sharing it and opening that throat chakra so you know you are being authentic with who you are inside, and the outside reflects that. You're speaking your truth. Maybe it's from people-pleasing to authenticity and being willing to lose social validation because you are committed to your spiritual integrity. Maybe it's from the fear of abandonment or the reality of abandonment into the deepening of security through emotional, physiological, bio-neurochemical, spiritual stability and commitment and sturdiness. Maybe it's from rage. Maybe it's from rage and anger and heat and exhaustion into peace and serenity and cool and calm. And maybe, probably for all of us, it's some level of victimhood into autonomous, sovereign freedom. Have you ever put a name to that? Again, a super helpful journal prompt in the end of your journal. Click the link in the bio. Where are you repeating unconscious patterns from your ancestral past, either from your mother or your father or your grandparents' lines? Is there any place in your life that you're doing the shit that you swore to God you wouldn't do? And if so, how come? Part of the lineage that I come from, of the yogic, Raja Yoga, Kriya Yoga lineage of Siddha medicine, is to look at something at face value and say, if it is, then it is. So I have to accept that it is. So if it is, if I believe in God, I have to at some level account for God has put this here for a reason. So if it is, it must be here for a reason. So then, putting the scientific process to it, if this is, it must be. So then why is it? If I believe that the highest order from God, from the divine, from Brahma, from the infinite source intelligence that creates all things, if I'm participating in creating my life with that, then why are these patterns present? Why am I repeating this ancestral cycle? Whatever the bullshit is, whatever the positive is. But for journaling and for closing out a year like we are right now in 2025, to look at these patterns that maybe we could perceive as negative and not helpful, not beneficial, why are they present? If we're struggling with money, if we're struggling with relationships, if we're struggling with, speaking our truth, something I've struggled with in my past that I feel I am at a new place with, and I have new degrees of freedom, and I have new degrees of the ability to articulate myself with, is in money, in prosperity, my understanding of my own worth, and my ability to exchange my time and energy for that worth is also reliant on my ability to speak my truth. There have been a lot of times in my past where I wanted to be seen, but I wasn't willing to be exposed. I think I wanted to be seen as the hurt little boy that was a genius, who was more of a genius than my genius dad. And I wasn't willing to expose my ferocity. Then I went into a few years where I was really willing to expose my ferocity, but I was actually coming from a place of shadow and overcorrection. So I was vengeful in how I shared my ferocity. I became aware that I was being rageful or vengeful or hateful or harmful or overly fiery, basically. Overly tamasic. I was not, not tamasic. Overly rajasic. I was not sattvic. Yogic. I was overcorrecting because I had been so shy, which is really fear. I was fearful of being rejected and fearful of being too over-dominant. And so it took me some years to swing back that pendulum and then catch it in the middle. So I'm not overcorrecting into rage and vengeance of, you better see me or else. And I also wasn't completely hiding and shy and tucking my truth in the invisibility cloak of the corners of my mind. How about you? Where are these patterns showing up in your life? Again, super helpful journal prompts in the end of your journal, link in bio. These are just a handful of prompts inside of the end of your journal, and I made it because I've been doing it every year for 5 or 6 years. I'm stepping into being a more consistent coach and a more assistive brother to sisters and brothers all over the world. I do coaching where I find that I can be a helpful resource to others, getting really clear on who they are and why they are the way they are. If you can get really clear on where these patterns come from in your life and why they are present karmically and how you can move through them towards that vision that you have inside of your heart for how you'd rather things were, the change you wish to see, the change you wish to be. I love helping people move through that because I have been the recipient of that mirroring from my mentors. The Christian, the Buddhist, the yogic, the NLP, the neuroscience, the somatic therapist lineages that I come from. I've so benefited from those mentors mirroring back to me those components of myself I just couldn't see on my own. We are the sun. The sun is our soul, but we can't see ourselves without a helpful mirror nearby who's willing, patient, and loving, willing to help us see ourselves so that we can move beyond those patterns where our sunlight is being stuck. I hope to help you in that same way. The end of your journal is the link in the bio. I hope it helps you end 2025 in a really helpful way and begin 2026 as the greatest year of your life. Much love to you, whoever you are, wherever you are, and wherever you are, the way you are. Namaste.